Join me inside my writing yurt. Come on. As you can see, I get excited about this material and I want to talk, and I don't get to get to every single question, but I will get to this one last question today from the Willow Grove Homeschool Group. Thank you, Willow Grove, for sending in your question. And they ask, I think, a wonderful question. What is my favorite writing advice for students? And in fact, I have 3 pieces of advice I'd like to share. And the first is simply to read. If you want to be a good writer, read good writing. Good writing not only shows us different ways of using language, of expressing thoughts and feelings and ideas, but it also teaches us new words and new perceptions about the world. It can take us into new experiences. But my advice is not simply to read. There's something even more important, which is to read for pleasure, to find things that you enjoy reading and read those. Of course, there'll be plenty of times in life when we have to read things that are required of us, that we may not be as excited about and may not be as pleasurable. And that's fine, that's part of life. But if you can retain a sense of reading for pleasure, if you can cultivate a sense of reading for pleasure, you will also be cultivating your imagination and your capacity to be receptive to the magic of words, to the magic of good writing. That's my first suggestion. My second suggestion is to keep a notebook. It might be a very small pocket notebook that you can carry around with you, and jot down your own thoughts, things that you might observe about the world around you. Notice the ways that people speak, interesting turns of phrase, or maybe describe interesting things that you see. You can also use your notebook to jot down quotes from things that you read, quotes that light you up inside or make you excited or curious or even angry or confused. You can come back to those quotes and then explore them. Such a notebook can be like a little treasure chest of ideas, of thoughts, of observations that might grow into a poem or a short story or maybe even something larger. I've kept a notebook myself now for 26 years. In fact, it's not one, it's a whole shelf full of notebooks now. And I still go back and find myself harvesting from those notes, from ideas, and from those observations. I very strongly recommend this practice as something to play with. And third, sometimes when we are starting to write something, we may start to plan what we want to say. And this is natural and very helpful. If we jump into writing something having no idea where we're going, we might end up going nowhere or going in every which direction and not ending up saying much of anything. However, it can also happen that we can dwell in that thinking time, thinking about what we're going to write rather than writing it. And so, one activity that I highly recommend is to try some short, timed, free writing activities. When I do this with students, I usually start with a 5-minute limit, no longer than 5 minutes. Anyone can write for 5 minutes. Get a timer for 5 minutes and get some topic. And sometimes better than a topic is to get some thing from the natural world. So for instance, if I'm working with students, I might go out to the beach and get an interesting stone or a piece of driftwood, or maybe something I don't even know what it is that I found on the beach, and I'll bring it inside, but I'll hide it. I'll have everybody sitting at a table, or just one person sitting at a table, whatever the situation may be. Place it in the middle of the table, be ready with a timer and say, okay, write about this. Reveal whatever it is, start the timer, and then for 5 minutes, the goal is to write as much as possible, continuously, without lifting your pencil or pen off of the page. Not worrying about whether what you're writing is good or bad or correct or incorrect. Just writing for 5 minutes. And then stop and see what you've ended up saying. I've found that this can be a surprisingly powerful way to open us up to writing as a creative exploratory activity in which we discover what we're saying as we say it. So I suggest that you give that kind of activity a try. So that is my answer to the Willow Grove Homeschool Group's question of what is my favorite writing advice for students? And I think that brings us to the end of our time. I had a couple more questions. We will start with those questions first thing during our next session. If you have any questions about the answers that I've given, follow-up questions, or even new questions that were prompted by what I said, please do sign up for the next call. I'd be happy to answer your questions. It's always helpful to have a chance to continue the dialogue. So thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.